So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome to you to the Comedy Spot, straight from New Orleans. Put your hands together for Boogie B.
What's up? What's up, Bob? How you doing, brother?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, baby. It's good to see you, man.
It's good to see that you made it over here, bruh. Last time I saw you was on my TV. But what was that, man? I saw you on some what was that, a reality show?
Yeah, it was a game show. It was one of those dating reality shows. You know, it's always scripted TV, but you know, it's something that looked like, you know, I was dating a couple of chicks, and you know, I had to choose which of the chicks I get to go on a date with and all of that. You know, it was real fun. You know, it's part of the LA experience, is just jumping on screen anytime you can jump on screen. That's what it's
totally understood. But it was a trip because I just so happened to be channel surfing. You know what I'm saying? And I just saw you, and I was like, wait a minute. So I got stuck, of course. But then I was like, boy, I hope that she don't diss, oh boy. And you won, son.
You know I won, man. You know my game is nice, first off, so you couldn't deny that. But they wanted the humor on the show anyway, so they set it up so that I stayed on the show as long as I could stay on the show, you know. And they probably gonna have me back on another season because they need comedians in these kind of shows to, you know, to make the show funny, because I had chicks doing push-ups and everything on the show. Wow.
But so they knew you was a stand-up.
Yeah, they knew I was a stand-up, of course. Yeah,
that was really like your first break in Hollywood, getting on that show, or what else were you doing?
Yeah, that was my first primetime TV thing. You know, everything else I had been doing was like, you know, I was on small parts of NCIS and Criminal Minds, like big shows, but I was not vocal in any of those shows, you know. So I had some behind the camera experience in LA. I had been out here working so hard, you know, trying to get that behind the camera experience, and I got a few of those looks, but that was the big look, you know.
Nice. Now, speaking of you being in Los Angeles, like I said in the opening, I know you from New Orleans.
Right.
Who that? Big up to my man John Vilma down there. You know what I mean? And you see what I'm doing right here, right? It's football season. I can't help, you know. Big up to Carlos, my right hand. He's trying to do it again. You see what's up?
He put this 49ers. I started to put a Saints hat right over the top of it.
Well, the funny part about it is, you know, the San Francisco Giants won the World Series, and earlier he was putting it, so I guess next is going to be the Warriors, right?
Right, Golden State, huh?
I saw them play the Heat last night. I don't know. I think they took an L by like 30 or something. But anyway, let's keep it moving. So New Orleans, you were in New Orleans. I saw you perform down there. I knew that you had it going on, but you really you've taken that plunge. How did you end up in LA, man? What happened?
Katrina happened, basically. Once Katrina hit, I had to get mobile, because I met Bob around, I met you around the last Comic View thing they did in New Orleans right before Katrina. And, you know, I didn't get a chance to get on the show, but I did get a chance to meet Bob and, you know, chop it up with a lot of veteran comedians. Then Katrina hit, and then I was shuffled to D.C., to Washington, D.C., where I really got cracking in the comedy game and started tearing the East Coast apart. And I bumped into you, like, first I auditioned for Def Jam, my first year of comedy, when I wasn't ready for Def Jam.
That's why I want to go back to, you said that I was down in New Orleans for Comic View. No, it was, remember, I was down there for Def Jam also at the Pontchartrain or somewhere. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
So I saw you down there, and I'm talking about you was brand new, son.
Yeah, I was brand new down there. The East Coast got me together, though. I went on the East Coast after Katrina. I moved to D.C., and that's where you get strong at. You get strong in places like D.C.
And that's where I saw you get strong. Because I was like, damn, is that the same dude?
Yeah. I auditioned for Def Jam in DC the first time. I was still a little, little kind of shaky with it. Then the second time, I got a standing ovation in Richmond, Virginia. And that's when you came to, you sent somebody to say, call that young man to my tape. Because I was scared to talk to you. I was like, man, that's Bob Sumner. I ain't just going to bust up over at his table. So you sent somebody, came talk to me for a second, man. You gave me some good words of encouragement. So, kept me focused. And that, when you talk to me over there on the East Coast, and I bumped into you a few more times on the East Coast doing shows in various places on the East Coast. And then you got me motivated to come to the West Coast and step my game up after the Bay Area competition in Oakland.
There you go. Right. That's exactly right. So it goes back to now. I'm in the comedy club. I didn't know you had made that move to LA. I'm walking through, and who do I see but Boogie B? And I'm like, what are you doing here? How long have you been here? Do they know you? And you sitting over there like you went into the club and you just waiting for somebody to ask you to dance. I mean, that's how it seemed. So but that's why I felt like I needed to take you under my wing, like I had already had you under my wing. Yeah. But now, because you got to think about, while we're talking about all of that, wasn't no Laugh Mob.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? But that was my thing. My thing was building this brand so I can do what we did 20 years ago. And when I talk about my rising stars, I mean that. And I know that you are one of them.
Yeah.
So from that time, and I had your partner Trey a couple weeks ago. Oh, both of you guys were always, and I know a lot of people think you guys are like brothers.
Yeah, we like brothers, man. That's important in the game, though.
Yeah, but the thing is, you guys both, I really feel as though when you hit that stage on Tuesday night, and we'll talk about it, people are really going to see who you are, For sure. So what type of things besides doing the the show that you was talking about, what other things are going on with you comedy-wise, like in the clubs and things in LA? How is it going now?
It's going great. Let me say this before I even say that. The reason I'm hitting these clubs like I'm hitting them is because you put a call in after you saw me in the club. You put a call into a few people and said, give my man a shot on your stage. And they did, and I've been in them ever since. So I just did a week ago. I did the Ontario Improv with Chad and Corey again for the second time, and that show was sold out. Carlos Mencia was the headliner on that show. He did 2 hours on stage. It was phenomenal. Of course, me and my man Trey, we doing a bi-weekly comedy show because that's important to try to get up-and-coming comedians a chance to get on stage, or people who are aspiring comedians to get on stage and try to do their thing too, just like somebody gave me a shot, who was Chris Thomas in D.C. Chris Thomas in D.C. put me on stage for the first time, and when nobody would. Big shout out to Chris Thomas, man. Mike Brooks, big shout out to them too. They looked out for me in DC. So I try to get a room every time I can get a room, so I can have somebody who could shout me out later on in life.
There you go. But you just spoke on two great guys, and it's amazing. I talked to Mike the other night, and Chris Thomas. That's my heart. But like those two guys, if anybody goes to the DC area, it's like Chris the mayor, and Mike's like the councilman. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like those dudes. If they were to come to LA, I mean, they would do what you're doing. I just thought about this when you were talking, and you was like making me get all teary eyed. I got my little tissues here.
I realize it. Yeah.
Hey, what did you think? What did you think of the show, man?
Man, that show was amazing. Like, first off, it was about time somebody did a reality show spoof of these reality shows with all of these chicks on these shows, and all of that's good. But when do the fellas get a chance to get on a show and have their own reality or whatever we could do to have fun on screen? Like, they weren't doing that. So that was much needed. Big shout out to K Hart, Chris Spencer, who put it together. I know him and Buddy Lewis are like me and Trey Elliott are. Right. They've been rolling for years.
Right.
They just, they just getting what they deserve.
Absolutely. God bless those guys, man.
Yeah.
But it's like, you hear so many people talk about, people try to criticize this, that, and the other. You have to understand that it's a spoof on stuff. It's not like they're going to dig deep into their lives.
Right.
I don't know what people really expect, but I know I really liked it. And the thing with me, I see comedy all the time, and it's like, are you kidding me? There, I was on that. So, yeah. And hopefully we'll be doing some things similar to that. I'm quite sure.
Yeah, man. I got since I'm in LA, I've taken up the habit of writing, trying to write sitcoms and stuff like that, just in case. Like, I don't have nobody right now looking for a sitcom from Boogie B, but I still have things like that I'm sitting on, just in case when Laugh Mob does what it's gonna do, then they come back to Boogie B and say, well, what else you got? You're funny, but what else you got? Then I can say, well, here go a script or two, and check that out. Let's see what we can do with that, because that's much needed, baby. It's what we out here for.
Absolutely. On that note, what are your thoughts about what's going on within the YouTube space?
YouTube is it's a great look for people to be exposed. If you're gonna be exposed, online is the way that you have to be exposed nowadays. There's no other way to expose yourself like online is. So your online presence got to be strong, and YouTube is one of them things, man. I sit up and watch YouTube like I'm watching a movie. Like, I watch it all night, like I'm on my phone, on my iPad, whatever I got, and I'm just watching YouTube to see what's out there. It keeps you abreast from state to state, from city to city. I keep in touch with my people from New Orleans. I watch their videos and their raps and their dances and who's ever hot in my city when I'm away from my city. I watch New York. I watch Jersey, DC. I keep in touch with the whole world basically via YouTube. You know what I mean? It's great.
Let me ask you this. In terms of comedy, like, who was some of your inspirations, when you were coming up? Like, who made you get into this game? How did that all happen?
I heard, I didn't even see it. I heard an audio of Martin Lawrence on the DVD that he made called Talking Shit. And it was back in the early 90s. It was just audio. That's all. I just happened to hear it. I don't know how I heard it, but I heard it and I was laughing. And I was probably like 10 or something like that. And I was laughing at grown man humor, basically, because Mark was giving that real stuff back then. So that was one of the first people I attribute my comedy to. But then as I got old enough to be able to check comedy out in detail, I started digging deep and checking out Red Fox and George Carlin and those kind of dudes who were amazing at what they did, and they had stories to tell from the heart. And it was amazing to me, and that's what I do. That's what I like to do on stage. I like to give people stuff that's funny, but only funny because it's coming from my soul, from my heart. And you can't help but laugh at something that's so real, you know what I mean? So I talk about Katrina, and I talk about my experiences with New Orleans and moving to new places, because prior to New Orleans, prior to Katrina, I had never left New Orleans. That's all I knew was the hood and the street.
Ninth Ward.
The third ward. That's all I knew. And that's all I planned on knowing until Katrina happened and gave me a good look to check out the rest of the country and see what people are doing. And it was just amazing. So I have a lot of different views on things that you may think was normal or is normal in your life or normal to people out who've been traveling the world, you know. So when I see places, I observe it, I internalize it, and I tell you what I saw, how I felt when I saw it on stage. And it comes across like, this dude country as hell. And that's basically what I was. I'm speaking to you from a country guy's point of view who's never seen a city life like New York or Jersey. So when I got there, or when I got to DC, and I saw that it was drugs, and I thought of DC as being our nation's capital. No crime. I got there and it was, you couldn't go nowhere. Like, it was people selling crack 10 miles from the White House. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So, but people knew that, besides, you know, people in the South who don't go those areas, you know. So that's what I talk about. People from the South, you know, I call myself the mouth of the South because I talk from the Southern point of view and speak it in a way that the Northerners and the Southerners both can relate. You know, they can understand where I'm coming from, because I'm not where you from, but I'm here. I'm here now. I'm out here. I'm going to tell you what I think about where you from.
Right,
So
right.
that's how it is, man. I love it.
That's the beauty of your stand-up, though, and that's why I'm a big fan of Boogie B, because I'm all about the comedian having a point of view. And I'm serious. I can see you and Trey, I can see us developing a sitcom around your lives, because both of you guys have been like gypsies, son.
Yeah, we've been moving, man.
I know that because I've been moving.
Yeah, I know, but you've been doing this. Like, you know, this is what you do. Like, this is what we are becoming. You know what I mean?
But that's the beauty of it, because when I'm out scouting talent, this, that, and the other, you know, I'm not a big fan of you being the local hero, because you could have invited, I can even tell when someone invited their family and friends to the gig. You know, my thing is, can you do that set in the next city, You guys have proven that you can, because you guys, and definitely you speak, just like you just said, you speak from real life experiences. And that's what stand-up is really about. When I talk about the difference between a comic and a comedian, a comic works within a box. A comedian could go anywhere and make someone laugh. And that's really what I see from you. And on that note, I do know that you will be one of the featured comedians on stage Tuesday night at the world famous Comedy Store with Jeru and Herb. You know, they you know, those guys is my guys, and they're gonna let us come in there and showcase to Hollywood who really has next, because that's a question that I want to bring up to you right now. What do you feel about how it's like people feel as though in order for you to get on stage, you got to have something popping right now? What's your feeling on that? Because, you know, parlaying out of Tuesday, you know, we're going to be doing our own little thing every Thursday, which is really catered for you guys as a place to work out your material, more or less. So what's your thoughts about the whole, you know, what that's all about?
Yeah, basically, I want the people to know that you don't have to be on TV to be funny. Like, it's a bunch of people, comedians that are working, that are funny, that have not had TV exposure, and there are comedians that have TV exposure that we are on the same level with in comedy, funny-wise. So don't look for the common face, because you don't want to go to a show unless you see Capone or a Kevin Hart or a Mike Epps. And I'm doing the same shows with these guys on a daily basis. They work out where I work out. You know what I mean? They come and work there. I'm on stage with Chris Rock, Joe Torre, Guy Torre. We're on shows every week together. But if I tell you to come to my show, you'd be like, well, who else gonna be there? I'm going to be there. It's other other people funny besides the people you've seen. Open your mind, world. Please open your mind and understand that there are comedians out here, and we are working, and we are struggling and striving to get funny, to be where the Joe Torres and the Kevin Harts and the Mike Epps are. But we need y'all support in order to get there. If y'all don't come see us, we'll never get to a Joe Torre or a Martin Lawrence. There'll never be another Martin Lawrence. There'll never be another Joe Torre, but there'll be a Boogie B. There'll be a Trey Elliott. There'll be new comedians in the game, a London Brown. There are a bunch of comedians that are young in the game to you guys, but we've been working for years. But y'all haven't seen us because all y'all watch is TV and y'all want to see Joe Torre. Like, we look at us. That's all I'm saying to the game.
You really have me going back in time, because what you're saying is absolutely right. Because, I mean, of course, you know, I kind of handpicked the kings of comedy before they were the kings of comedy. I could, like, go back in time and really think about some of those days. And one time in particular was when we had put out the Def Comedy Jam tour, and Bernie Mac and those guys had gone on to, you know, do their thing. Bill Bellamy was now on MTV, you know, this, that, and the other. I was trying to tell the promoters about this guy who's really, really funny, but they were like, but Bob, what does he do? Like, how can we sell tickets? And I was like, it's about the brand. Trust me, if you like the TV show, anybody I put on this tour is going to make people laugh. And they just didn't understand what I was talking about. And all I was trying to tell them was this guy named Dave Chappelle is funny.
You don't have to tell them no more, I'll tell you that.
Well, I mean, but that's why, again, that's why it's so important for people to come out this Tuesday to the Comedy Store for the Laugh Mob New Talent Comedy Showcase, because they're going to see some rising stars, with Boogie B being one of the main attractions. And on that note, again, I'm very happy that you've taken the time to come and be a part of the Laugh Mob family. And I really have to ask you, how do you feel about being a part of the family?
Man, it's an amazing feeling for me to be even associated with an individual like yourself, of course, and a group of individuals, of like-minded individuals in this comedy game. The Laugh Mob, to me, is like the Def Jam comedy brand was before it became Def Jam nationwide. It started somewhere. Absolutely. So this is the ground floor of Google people are looking at. They don't we're the Google of comedy right now. They don't recognize things until they get to the top. But this to me, I feel like I'm at the concrete cementing level of a structure that's gonna be timeless. That people are gonna be talking about Laugh Mob like we talk about Def Jam. You know what I mean? And it's a blessing to be a part of something like that. You know what I'm saying? You can't not want to be a part of something that you think is going to be great. And that's what I think Laugh Mob is doing, is giving so many comedians an avenue, so many veterans mixed with younger comedians like myself. When I say younger, I mean younger in the comedy game, because I'm 7 years in, but 7 years is a baby in comedy. When Bob know people that's 25 years in the game, you know what I mean? So, but Laugh Mob is where it's gonna start, baby. It's where it's gotta start.
When I found Bernie Mac, Bernie may have been 10 years in the game already. You know what I mean? And people was like, who is this guy? This guy is like new. But even like when I hear what you're saying, more so than anything, my dream with Laugh Mob was to like build the Motown of comedy. You know, take the blueprint that Mr. Gordy put out in the late 50s, early 60s, and I'm just looking at you and I'm saying, like, am I talking to David Ruffin right now? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and I appreciate those words. And we're about to close in a minute, but something else that's very, very important is you being in the game 7 years mean you know something about this business. And I know that there's a young aspiring comedian, comic, or whatever you want to call him or her, sitting back in Laugh Mob Land right now, checking us out at the Comedy Spot. Do you have any words of advice for any young comedians that's trying to be in the business?
Young comedians, this is what I got to tell you. If you're new in the comedy game and you don't know who you are, find yourself first. Find yourself. Find out who you are, what you want to be, what image you want to portray on stage, and portray that. You have to know who you are before you can deliver who you are to a crowd. The audience is not buying your jokes, they're buying your character. Whoever you are is gonna resonate with them. So when I talk about New Orleans on stage, people resonate me with New Orleans, and that's who I am. So find out who you are, and your jokes will be nationwide all the time, because it's about you, and it's about bringing people into you and telling them what's in your heart and on your mind. And you can never localize yourself, because it's about you. I can bring anybody into my world, because I'm Boogie B. That's what I do. But it took me a while to get to that. Like, I didn't know whether to be more poised than I normally am on stage, but I found myself, and that was due to the tutelage of the veterans. Listen to the vets. Whatever they say, like the people like the Bob Sumners, the Chris Thomases, Mike Brooks, any comedian in your area that's got time in the comedy game, whether you think they're funny or not, whether you like them or not, whether they treat you a certain way or not, always, always, always listen to what they tell you, because they're not telling you nothing wrong. They're telling you something that's true in this comedy game, and it could be outlandish, but it's definitely true.
Wow. Hey, Boog, I'm going to be straight up with you, man. It's a pleasure sitting here talking with you, because your knowledge is like, you're looking at it the right way, brother. And I really believe that the sky's the limit with you. And I really appreciate you coming out to the Comedy Spot and hanging out with me. Listen, how can somebody become part of the Boogie B team? I mean, Twitter, Facebook, what's going on?
I got it all, man. I'm all over online. Type in Comedian Boogie B on Twitter, on Instagram, on Comedian Boogie B on Twitter and Instagram. I have a website, boogiebethecomic.com. You could go there if you're not a member of none of those cult websites. YouTube, I'm under Boogie B Comedy. I got a YouTube channel. You know, I'm everywhere online, man. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, follow me